Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Wowhead Weekly number 113. Did you like that little dragon on my face? I sure did. We have a lot to talk about because, of course, 7.2 is right around the corner. But before I do that, I would love to introduce my lovely co-host, Wowhead Site Manager Perculia.
Hey everyone! So patch 7.2 is a thing, and we have less than a week notice. So we have lots of updates about 7.2. We'll run through all the new stuff we learned, and then we'll review all the stuff about 7.2 on Wowhead in case, you've been focusing on the live game and haven't been paying attention to 7.2. And then we have some Blizzard news, and then we have some Wowhead events going on.
Yeah, we do. We have all sorts of stuff to talk about. So I'm super excited because I think I actually have videos fully up and working. So do you want to watch the trailer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very cool trailer.
In case you guys don't know, 7.2 is coming out March 28th, which is literally Tuesday. It's March 29th.
Or 29th.
For EU. Yeah.
We know we have lots of EU users. We haven't forgotten about you.
Yeah, we did not forget about you. But it's coming out so soon, next week. So a trailer came out to go along with it, and I made this cute little thing. So here's us over here. Oh, ignore that. That's future stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look at the trailer for 7.2.
Yep.
Champions, your victory at the Night Hold has granted us the key to ending this war. With the pillars of creation assembled, we finally have the power to cut the demons off from our world. Gul'dan failed, and so shall the Legion.
Gul'dan was merely their pawn. Until victory is assured, we must remain vigilant. For the Legion's true masters have yet to reveal themselves.
I love that.
Among them,
Yeah, that
the
just
monster
going with the
who
green.
hunted
I
my
hope they make a
people
toy that's like the
across
vision
the
of
stars.
Kill Jaden.
Ooh, I like that.
Wouldn't that be
Is
cool?
that
2.5 toy? Yeah, I like that idea.
I also like that Kill Jaden's gotten more and more
Day I
decayed as
took
we've
the
seen him.
Fellfire into
Yeah, it's,
flames.
we first saw him in
I
Sunwell,
saw
and
my destiny.
Sorry for my doggo.
your dog also has opinions.
Grand crusade that would reach the ends of
He is like
creation.
now. That's very exciting.
That was the vision you showed me. Our crusade will prevail. Everything we have done has been by your design. And all we have to show for it is failure. Perhaps you've lost sight of our destiny. Perhaps I overestimated your resolve.
So rude.
I paid
I
for
know.
that destiny.
Lord just posted
With
some Mythic
my
and Keystone updates in the middle of his scrap. So I'll let you talk about this, and then I'll do
The time has come
I love the depiction of
to
Argus.
see it done.
I also love that he hangs up on Sargeras. There. Up on Sargeras.
Burn it to ash.
So, okay, as far as that trailer goes, I did a reaction to it when I first watched it, and my first instinct about Kill Jaden was that he kind of seemed a little unhinged, right? Because, like,
Yeah.
Sargeras is supposed to be so powerful, and I just think it's insane that he, like, kind of talked back to him and hung up on him, and he sort of was being, like, a baby throwing a temper tantrum because things weren't happening in the way he wanted them to or as fast as they wanted them to, but... then he turns around and he's so scary with his, porting a bunch of ships in to, like, destroy Dalaran and all of the Broken Isles. What was your takeaway?
So I'm not sure if you heard me before, but Laura just posted a bunch of Keystone updates for 7.2.
Yeah,
So
of
my
course.
takeaway was like, oh shit, I gotta post this. But I like it. I liked how all the like leaders were coming together. I like the focus on the classes and leaders working together versus the typical like alliance versus the horde.
Yeah.
I like seeing Velen having a role because we haven't really seen him for a few expansions, and then he had that, you know, really emotional character twist in this scenario as part of the Order Hall chain.
Yeah.
So I think it will be an interesting showdown between him and Kil'jaeden because, you know,
They're
Kil'jaeden's been like they were working together back in Argus,
Yeah.
and then, you know, now like Kil'jaeden's been like stalking him for millennia,
Yeah.
and that will be an interesting showdown. I wonder, I mean, everyone's like, oh, like, you know, it's dramatic, like will something happen to Velen? And I don't think there will be, but it's just, you know, they're trying to set it up as some sort of battle. So I think there'll be some sort of reveal or interesting dialogue or something between both of them.
I agree. I think that there's something's about to go down one way or another. And I think it is really interesting, the parallel between Valen and Kil'jaeden, because they kind of come from this same broken world. And one of the comments on my video I found really insightful was that, you know, Draenei, regardless of what side of this conflict they're on, it seems like they're kind of just bringing the conflict with them wherever they go. You know, like Argus was destroyed, then they showed up on Draenor. Draenor was destroyed, now they're on the Broken Isles. The Broken Isles doesn't seem like it's going to fare very well, being that the Legion is invading them en masse. So
yeah, you could also say that about the Night Elves as well. Like, you know, the Night Elves got all these blessings, and then they like literally blew up the world because they didn't use magic correctly. And you know, there's like Well of Eternity, and then there was like, so you could say that, you know, all these races that are meant to be seen as, you know, very cultured and giving, you know, blessings and very advanced, how they get corrupted in some way, or they don't have any checks and balances on their power, and then that leads to, you know,
it's almost
things.
like mo money, mo problems. Like the more advanced and the more that they have available to them, the worse the bad stuff is. The better the good stuff is, the worse the bad stuff is. So if you guys want to watch that trailer for yourself, it is on the World of Warcraft YouTube channel. It's also embedded on wowhead.com. But it's a good watch, and I feel like if you watch it a few times, you'll notice more things about it each time. Before we move on to our next segment, I do want to take a second to thank Artanis for subscribing, as well as AGANJ2 for subscribing for the 4th month in a row using Twitch Prime. Thank you so much. Also, obligatory reminder to anybody who is subscribing to us with Twitch Prime, you do have to manually resubscribe every month. It will not automatically subscribe you. Thank you for all of you who chose to do that. Because of that, we actually did get a couple new emotes, so check them out in chat if you feel like it. And that was from Ascot Hero, made those on Twitter. So thank you so much. I'm super excited to talk about this next thing.
Oh, wait, actually, let's talk about the thing I just posted.
Okay.
Because it's not in the notes, and it just sort of came up. So So brief interlude. So Mythic Keystone Dungeons at 7.2's launch, Lore just posted some updates on this, and this is what they are. So the item level rewards for the end of run chests are getting updated because the base item level for Mythic loot is going from 840 to 865. So it wouldn't make sense if your Mythic loot was like, you know, 840 or so. So they're going to range from 870 at Mythic 2 to 890 at Mythic 10. And then for the weekly Challenger bounty chest that you get, Mythic 10 Plus will be going up to 905. And this is important because, you know, people are like, oh, like, how should I prepare for 7.2 when I look at my weekly cash? You know, should I try like a Mythic 5 or a Mythic 10? Also, he said, as we transition from patch 7.15 to 7.2, you'll get a lower level Keystone with the reset this week than you may otherwise be expecting. This is due to the increase in difficulty of these dungeons in patch 7.2.
So they're trying to give you the equivalent.
Yeah, because like the health and the damage is going up.
Yeah.
There's a Mythic 15. You will get a level 7 Keystone.
Okay. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that was the... Holy crap. That's a big difference.
Yep. So those are the updates, and we'll get to this more in our overview, but there's new affixes coming in 7.2. Some of them are nerfed. There's ones getting replaced. So yeah, that was the little interlude, and you can read more of the details up on Wowhead about this.
Yep.
Back to the notes.
Back to the regularly scheduled notes. So we talked about this a while ago, and we were talking just last week about how they had not actually previewed these yet. But one of the things that people are really excited for in patch 7.2 are these new class challenges, because they are going to feature these new artifact appearances that you can only get by doing these super difficult class challenges. And they're pretty cool. I've got them all scrolling up right now. Do you want to talk a little bit more about them? I know you need to, before you can even do the 7.2 quest to unlock the challenges to try to earn one of these, you have to be at 35 traits, right?
Yeah, so you need the 35 traits, and then you also need to do the special quest line in 7.2 to transform your artifact into the empowered version. So that means that instead of the 20-point infinite trait, you instead have a whole new series of traits, and you can upgrade your bronze traits, and you have this concordance infinite trait. So you don't have to max it out, but you need to just do the quest to get your artifact updated.
Gotcha.
And then there's an additional requirement. So once you have all that done, your region needs to have the Mage Tower building activated. And then when the Mage Tower building's activated, an NPC and a quest will spawn that will allow you to queue up for this scenario. And the first time you do it, it will be free. And then if you fail and you want to try again, it will cost a small amount of nether shards. But you know, you'll know if you're ready to do it or not fairly quickly. Like if you're gonna die at the very start, you're like, okay, maybe I should get more gear and practice situational awareness before I keep throwing myself at it.
Yeah, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah, Blizzard did talk about this a little in the Q&A, and they said it would get easier with gear and traits as as you keep accumulating item levels, but it's still ultimately about skill and challenge. Like it's not a static DPS fight. There's situational awareness. There's some utility and using your unique class abilities involved. And they're like, oh, we don't expect everyone to get this. It's meant to be the challenge appearance.
Yeah.
And they did say that yes, it's intended that the other tints you unlock off the base trait are not related to solo challenges. So one requires raiding, one requires some PvP. And they're like, it's okay if just the base tint is meant to show, your solo mastery over a spec.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, if the actual appearance is something that you have to get through the solo challenge, I don't see why every single variant would also have to be through a solo challenge.
Right.
You already proved yourself when you got the base appearance.
Yeah, so you can also start on this right away in 7.2 as soon as the Mage Tower is up. There's no time gating. It's just, you need your 35 traits first. And I think that makes sense because if you don't have 35 traits, you're probably not really playing your class that hardcore, and it wouldn't be a fun experience if you went in there under geared on a new artifact and were dying pretty quickly.
Yeah, so that's almost like a gear check. It's not, but it almost is.
Yep.
So I'm pretty excited about that. It's weird because I just have no idea what they're like, obviously, because I don't like to test these kind of things on PTR. I tried to do, when I get on PTR things, I'm looking for numbers and models and things like that, but I am the type of person that I try not to become jaded in my WoW experience, so I don't like to do things like questing and stuff on the beta and on the PTR because I don't want to ruin that experience for myself when it's live. So
this is interesting. Blizzard's actually you can't test these on the PTR.
Oh, I didn't realize you still couldn't test them. Jeez.
Yeah, they just were they're really difficult. All we know about them is that there are 7 variations, which I think line up with the 7 different quests you can get for empowering the artifact.
Okay.
So there'll be a tank version, a healer version, and then a bunch for DPS. And so if you're a Frost Death Knight, you won't do the same challenge as an Unholy Death Knight. You'll have a different scenario to learn.
So question, wait, I take it back. Okay, so what confuses me about this is if there's only 7 total solo challenges that you can do, would you unlock it based on your specific artifact, or would you unlock it based on the challenge? Once you've completed the challenge,
it's based on the spec. It's based on your spec.
So what if someone like a hunter? I would think that all specs of hunter, with the exception of survival, would have similar challenges. No.
So actually, we can look at them. So we were looking at this because we've been filming all the empowered quest lines, and we think that the class breakdown is the same. So Survival Hunter has one that's related to some lore quest called the Thieving Apprentice, while Marksmanship is, where is it? Oh yeah, so Beast Mastery is something rumblings near Fell Totem, and then Marksmanship is near a quest line called Twisted Twin. So it seems that Blizzard has spread it out, so if you're like a pure DPS class, all three will have a different
yeah, that's exactly what I was asking in a poor way. I'm interested to see what the healing challenges are like, because I feel like in the past, when you look at things like Proving Grounds, for instance, I always felt like there's always just this weird disconnect between what healers do in those types of challenges and what healers do in reality. You know what I mean?
So it seems like Discipline Priest has a different challenge than the other healers.
That makes sense.
So that'll be interesting to see what it is. But at least the healers get their own separate. The healers get their own separate ones, so it's not like, oh, we took this DPS scenario.
Yeah, it's not like the Withered Training 2.0.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah,
this is very different than that.
I'm definitely super interested to see what that's going to be like, and I hope it's. I don't know. I hope I can unlock it. Like, I hope it's not. I don't know how. I have no idea how hard it's going to be. I don't know what the checkpoint is going to be for skill.
I mean, they said at launch that like you'd have to have complete mastery of your class to do it. Like week 1. And then as you get more artifact trades.
But it's not even like, and I get that, right? But then in the same sense, I'm still super, like, I only play one class. Like, I don't really play my alts at all. Right. Very casually when I play them at all. So it's like, I wonder, like, how I'll fare in something like that. Because I just have no context or frame of reference to go on. But I'm interested for sure. And I'll definitely try it out. And I just hope I don't, like, fail miserably immediately. Because I'm pretty well geared. I mean, not phenomenally. So I think I'm, like, 890. Does that sound about right? Yeah, I think I'm about 890 right now. So no, I think I'm 898. I'm either 888 or 898. Now that I say it out loud, I think I'm 898 because 888 would have stuck out to me. So I'm very close to 900. Right. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. I'm excited to try them out. A lot of these I think the hunters all have gorgeous appearances.
I really like how the hunter appearances are a throwback to Roctalar. The bow from Classic WoW, and the staff, and it has the flowers on it. And I think Wentint has the exact flowers as the vanilla bow.
Yeah, I think they're super pretty. I think the priest ones are really pretty. The shaman ones are okay, but I don't know. I think I'm overly critical because that's my class. I really like the rogue, like fencing swords. I think they're interesting. But anyways, I don't know. I
like the feral one. It's all neon.
Yeah, all the warlock ones are super cool too. All the druid ones are cool because I don't know why they didn't do like artifact chickens. Like I would be so disappointed if I played a Moonkin and got to see like cats getting 50 different forms and bears getting 50 different forms, then I'm just a stupid owl holding a scythe.
Yep.
What a bummer. But before we move on, I do want to take a second to thank Cassatria 10 I tried really hard for subscribing using Twitch Prime. We really, really appreciate it. Enjoy our new emotes. We have a really cute little Hogger and a Murloc that we love. Now there was just recently a Q&A in World of Warcraft that went over a lot of things. I don't think you put it on here, but did they say in this Q&A that you would be able to sell the rep tokens and the AP items that wouldn't work for gold? Because I saw that floating around, but I didn't hear it my personal self.
So I'm not sure if they did, but I think based on like PTR or data observations, people are like, oh, I copied my character over, and these tokens have a sell price.
Gotcha.
Really? So yeah, I have seen that floating around as well.
Yeah, I've seen that floating around as well, and I feel like the rep tokens and the AP tokens have just been a constant source of frustration for me because I didn't actually I don't think I threw any of them away. I think I still have them in my bank, but still, like, I feel like a bunch of people threw them away after hearing that they wouldn't be able to use them. And now it's like, even if they sold for 2 or 3 gold each, like, how obnoxious is that?
Yeah, I feel like Blue Post would have been useful about, upcoming changes on this.
Yeah, Blue Post would be useful about a lot of things, but we found out a little bit more about class mounts, correct?
Yeah, so we did not know this before. The class mounts have several requirements, which will take a while to get. So we learned that you must get exalted with armies of Legion Fall, and then complete the Legion Fall Broken Shore quest campaign, which has 11 components, and they'll be spread out over many weeks. So when patch 7.2 hits, you can't, run off and get this class mount a week or two into the patch. You have to be, regularly doing quests each week.
Yeah.
And we've been previewing all the quests on the PTR because at one point they had like easy requirements for testing, but now you have to do a bunch of other stuff to get the mounts.
Yeah.
We also learned that Legion Pathfinder will not be completable the first week because the requirement to do new invasions in each zone, that you can only complete starting the week of April 4th.
Gotcha.
We also learned that players under 110 can do the part 1 of invasions for media experience. And just to recap what invasions are, basically like the zone is taken over with demons, all the world quests change, players can like kill a bunch of stuff, they can do world quests in the area, and that's just part 1. And then if you're level 110, you can go off and kill more difficult demons and eventually do a 3-player scenario, which counts as the full invasion.
Yeah.
And this is something that I know you have thoughts about, but we also learned sadly that each class is not, I typed this wrong in the notes, each class is not meant to have the same power ascended reward. So not all classes are guaranteed a pet.
Yeah.
And we've discussed before how like Death Knights, their mount changes based on spec. And then if they grind out artifacts, they can get matching pets. And the monk mount doesn't change tints based on your spec, but it talks to you and then you get a matching pet. And like demon hunters get a Pepe and hunters can tame Feathermane. So it's meant to be all different, and Blizzard's rationale was that they want to push class fantasy in Legion, and that means that that should go. I know.
I didn't realize the fantasy of being a Death Knight was raising an adorable baby dragon.
I know.
Did you know that? Did you know that rogues just are pining to have a little parrot pet?
I know. Well, demon hunters like Pepe. I understand that.
Demon hunters are all about that Pepe life. What the heck? I mean, I get the idea of class fantasy. I do. I get it. But, like, it doesn't... Yeah. The things that were implemented do not seem class fantasy. Some of them do. Like, the fact that mages get, like, a little mount that their pets can use that matches their mount. That's adorable.
I think that one's okay.
And I totally get why only mages would get that. But, like... The fact that demon hunters all get a baby dragon, like, since when are I'm sorry, not demon hunters, Death Knights. Since when are Death Knights like baby pet
parents? especially because the whole Death Knight quest line is about them not liking the dragons. So why are they getting baby dragons?
It just isn't, like, I get behind the logic. Like, I can get that. And I do totally understand the idea of, like, a lot of people said, one of the things that everybody loves so much about Vanilla WoW were the differences in the things that classes got. You had Paladins got a mount, Warlocks got a mount, Shamans had to go do quests to get totems. Like, everybody had these little differences in their classes that made it interesting. And this, you also have to remember, though, that was the days before mount collecting. You couldn't, there were no achievements. I mean, the context of the world was different at that point in time, but I like understand the idea of wanting to maintain class fantasy and not wanting to have everybody have the same thing, and I just don't buy that, like, the things they implemented were necessary. It just seemed like, oh, Demon Hunter Pepe, we'll just have a Demon Hunter thing to get Demon Hunter Pepe, as opposed to, like, why not hide Pepe, like, as a...
I think it would have been good if they had blue posts explaining the shift, because it felt that in past expansions, everything was, becoming account-wide, or even with Transmog, there was always the version of the set you could get if you didn't play the class.
Yeah.
So I feel like if they were going to do this big shift, just emphasizing it more would have been useful, especially because I think at BlizzCon it was hinted that, like there would be maybe matching pets, or maybe people latched on to the idea that every class would have matching pets. So just being like, hey, we're actually trying to have more class variation. This is intended. Would be good to help manage expectations.
I just think that a better way to do class variation would have been in, like, transmog items, or, like, I just...
like the toys like mages. I feel toys are sort of a more neutral ground than...
Yeah, or, like, toys is a more neutral ground. I don't... And then the fact that, like, are druids getting a pet?
No, but I guess one could argue that druids, you plant those seeds in the order hall, and they got the pet that way. And so they already got something.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going for variation, it shouldn't matter if druids already got something. Their class fantasy is much more rooted in nature and nurturing and baby animals than a death knight.
Yep.
Or a rogue. Like, I feel like rogues were always a kind of serious class, like that. I always thought of rogues as being like kind of.
I don't know. I mean, the whole outlaw spec is kind of like.
I get. Yeah. Okay.
Pirate, fantastical.
But if they had locked crackers to outlaw, I would be with you. But like, why would an assassination rogue have a pet parrot?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Reasons. Yeah. I don't know. I just. Like, I feel like my salt levels are lower. For those of you who've seen the last couple weeks' shows, like, I've calmed down significantly. I'm still not fully on board with the, like, this is specifically because of class fantasy. Because if it was because of class fantasy, I just feel like there would have been a little more thought put into it. Like, how did they sit down at this, like, I don't know why I picture some sort of corporate board meeting at Blizzard, because I don't even think that's how they would design things, honestly.
I mean, this sort of reminds me of the Q&A we did, where we're like, hey, what's happening with the alternate mountains? And they were like, oh, they'll be coming. So, yeah.
Yeah, like, I feel like I just picture them being in this board meeting where they're like, think tanking these ideas and bouncing ideas off. And somebody said, oh my God, yeah, we'll give Death Knights baby dragons. How did nobody stand up and say, wait a second, Death Knights don't even really like dragons very much. Like, how is there not a representative?
Yeah, there's an achievement for killing all of them in 7.2.
Like, it's just strange. Like, it's just weird, but whatever. I'm over it.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I'm glad that there are alternate tints for mounts making it into the game.
Yeah, I do strongly believe though that all the alternate tints should be different mounts. They should not just change with your spec. I think anything that has alternate tints, they should count as different mounts.
Yeah, I feel especially because there's the transmog set UI improvements coming in 7.2 that a lot of people like matching their mount to their transmog. And the main complaint I've seen whenever I preview a mount on Wowhead is that people are like, oh, I really like this green one, it matches my transmog, but, I'm a tank, so I get the red mount.
Maybe they'll lift those restrictions a little bit. I know that they were very specific about if there's something that you want regarding any of these class order hall campaigns, don't feel like if you don't do it now, it's something you're missing out forever. And They also said that they would be willing to, like, reevaluate how those are earned in a non-Legion universe. So it makes me feel like maybe everything's really hard and weird right now because they want it to be difficult and varied right now. But then once the expansion comes out, like the next expansion, Beyond Legion comes out, maybe, like, it's sort of like...
Oh, it reminds me of how, like, they might nerf an instance but keep the glory of the whatever mount, so it becomes easier to get. But if you got it really early on, it's, a status symbol that you got.
Yeah, like, right now it's a status symbol. I'm trying to think of something that was, like, a giveaway, because there was something like that recently that it was, like, nobody had it, and then they, like... A good example is actually, I know we're not like a League of Legends show, but a perfect example is Overwatch is a great example, right? Because like right now the Rio skins could not be purchased for gold. So if you have a specific Rio skin, it is sort of like a status symbol. Like you either got very lucky or you bought a lot of boxes, whereas, the Christmas skins you could just buy. So there's not that special feeling about them. And I almost feel like this is going to be one of those things where at some point it is going to be a status symbol, and then in the future they'll have to change it because people won't be doing those raids, and there won't be people to do the broken
there's some
shore
WoW
content.
examples that are on the tip of my tongue that I can't think of, but I think we've seen this with Transmog Gear before. Like, well, I mean, I guess it's a more general concept, not a piece of gear, but like getting your Mythic set is a big deal, and then several expansions later you can just go in and solo it and get that piece of gear.
I guess in a weird way, I just really, really hope that in the future they do nerf these and they do make them easy to get, and they do keep them as, right now they're a status symbol, but in the future they won't be. And we'll still have the things like the mounts that go down to a 1% drop in raids that will still remain kind of difficult to get. But I think these things that are collector's items, in a way, I would like to think that in the future they're going to make those easier to obtain for people who want to obtain them for non-status symbol reasons. This is how I'm keeping my positivity up.
Yep.
Where's Roxy? This is Warcraft positivity at its finest. But moving on from PvE stuff to PvP stuff, I made a little slideshow of some of the mounts that we can get in PvP this season. But overall, there's a lot of PvP stuff going on in 7.2.
Yeah, so on the more casual end, the Vicious and Prestigious mounts are now account-wide, so that's great news. The Vicious mounts are the ones that you can get when you turn in those Vicious saddles when you win a bunch of rated battlegrounds or arena matches, and the Prestigious mounts are the ones that you get for various honor levels, so you don't have to grind out honor ranks on all your characters, so you can get the cute unicorns. There are six new mounts from the Vicious saddle. Alliance and Horde get 3 each, so we've got a lion, we've got bears, we've got turtles, and we've got a scorpion, and they're really cool. I wish I could. I want like a refund on my token so I can turn it in for one of these, newer mounts.
Yeah, they're really, really cool. I really like the bears and how they have like leather straps around their legs and stuff. I feel like, as time has gone on, details and stuff like mounts have gotten so much more intricate than they used to be. So when you see these guys in armor, I mean, you can kind of spin around the models and you can see that it's going all the way around their legs and all the way under their bellies. And, there's all these little doodads and knickknacks all over them. And I
really like the Alliance Lion, the saddle especially, because it's like this little throne and it has all these weapons sticking out of it. It feels very Game of Thrones style.
Yeah, it's really cool. No, the lion mounts are really, really cool. They remind me of this is probably because they share a similar model, but there's that lion that everybody was taming in Mists of Pandaria.
Oh yeah.
As a hunter. But yeah, and then on top of that though, it's not just these mounts and these updates. I mean, obviously they announced the dates of cutoffs and the amount of rating approximately that you would need to have to get different titles. But of course, 7.2 is also bringing all of the new PvP brawls.
Yeah. So we've got the PvP brawls like Gravity Laps or South Shore versus Terran Mill, and these won't all be right at the start of 7.2. There'll be like little holidays interspersed. And it's also interesting to point out that for transmog reasons, with Season 3 coming, the Gladiator gear looks like Tier 20, and you can get the Gladiator gear sooner than the Tier 20 gear because all that stuff's locked with the new raid that's coming.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think of that.
So if you want like your high definition Tier 6 or new cool looks, PvP is a faster way to get some of those appearances. Yeah. And also speaking of appearances, there are new prestige ranks, and that always means more mounts and pets. So usually they're a secret in advance, but we know that one of the rewards will be an artifact tint, which is up in the calculator.
Yep. Are we on to UI improvements now?
Yep,
we're on so organized, and we're just zipping through stuff today. I don't even know. Who are we?
Yep.
So this is, guys, just kind of cycle through some different pictures of what we're talking about. I'm sorry if it's not lined up with when we talk about them, but it'll keep scrolling. So if you miss something, it'll come back in a couple frames. But there are a lot of UI improvements in 7.2, a lot. One of the biggest and most exciting is the dumbest thing ever, but it's an open all button in the mailbox.
How many years were we waiting for that?
It's the stupidest thing, but it's so useful. I'm so glad that they added that. They also made it so that if you're at a vendor and you don't have enough currency, whatever it is, to buy whatever that is, it'll be grayed out, so you won't try to buy something that you can't buy. In also vendor-related stuff, the Blood of Sargeras vendor will now allow you to buy multiples, bigger amounts.
Yeah.
Pet spells can now be put on your action bar, which again, I don't know why that took so long because people have been making macros for that forever. Yeah. The calendar UI will also have a mouse over for ongoing events, so you'll be able to see more than one thing going.
I really like this one because to me it's always been really confusing, and the calendar has all those little borders at the top of it, but when there's 5 things going on at the same time, the border looks really messy. So they just got rid of the borders, and instead when you click on the square, it shows you all the stuff that's
going on, which is super nice because there's more and more stuff going on these days, because you have stuff like the Dark Moon Fair, which comes once a month, and then you also have, holidays, regular holidays, then you have micro holidays, then you have your weekly event. Plus, I think there's going to be, I don't think the PvP brawls are the same as your weekly event. Those
Exactly.
are two
Yeah,
separate things. So that's a new weekly thing. So honestly, the timing of this couldn't be better. I personally never found myself jumbled by that, but once it was pointed out to me, I'm like, oh yeah. Like, why wasn't it like that to begin with? So it's really nice that they're fixing that. They are also making it so that spells in there's a lot of little quality of life changes coming for your spell book, but if you do not have a spell on your action bar, when you go to your spell book, it will be highlighted in your spell book. And then also, if you're looking for a spell on your action bar, when you hover over it in your spell bar, it'll highlight it on your action bar, which if you're going onto an alt that you haven't played in like a year,
that should be super helpful.
Huge. That's huge because I find myself, if I haven't played an alt in, I would say 6 months, I will just empty their bars and start fresh because it's like, I don't know where I put things. Like, I don't know what 6 months ago Danielle was doing. She was nuts. And then they're also making it so that if you have a transmog ensemble, you can right or control click it to see what it looks like, which again, I can't believe it wasn't like that from the get-go. Like, I
know, and that's actually really useful because a lot of the ensembles aren't actual like items you can pick up and collect.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to see everything at once. Like, oh, like here's this Trial of Valor cosmetic ensemble I don't have, or the Legion Invasion set.
No, I totally agree. It's awesome. And then I think this is really funny, but also really cool, and I think it's going to add a lot more immersion and life to the game.
Yeah.
But if you are talking to an NPC and you're not facing them, your character's head is going to turn to look at the NPC when they're talking. And like, it's the dumbest thing, but like, I feel like this was probably a lot for them to implement. Like, I feel like the background of this had to have been a lot, but I also feel like the immersion of that is because I mean, in real life, I mean, you're not going to be standing.
Yeah, with your back to the NPC that's thanking you.
What's going to happen if you do your back to them? Oh my God, I really hope we see some like Exorcist head turning stuff.
I think your body tilts slightly as well. On a lot of our later 7.2 videos, people have commented being like, oh, like that's so cool, is your character turning? So, you can check things out on like the Anduin video or the mount videos, and you should be able to see that behavior in action.
Yeah, that's super cool. I'm really glad that they added that. But yeah, so a lot of little UI improvements. But let's kind of come back for a second and just kind of go over like 7.2 as a whole, like the TLDR version of it, because there's a lot. There is so much coming with this patch. It hits US servers, or NA servers rather, on March 28th, EU servers on March 29th. It's going to bring with it the new Broken Shore Outdoor Zone, PvP Season 3, the new dungeon, Cathedral of Eternal Night. There'll also be eye level changes. There'll be Heroic Karazhan Karas getting split into 2 different dungeons and getting a Mythic Plus difficulty. Also, what are the 2? There's Archway and Court of Stars. Yep, those will also have heroic difficulties. There are those transmog stat and UI improvements that we just talked about. As far as like the transmog stat improvements, you'll be able to sort by like different tier sets that you have. You'll be able to see full sets of gear that you have like in your transmog. That's something you'll be able to sort by. And you're also going to be able to save a set of gear to a specific set, just like Outfitter, the add-on does. Right. There's also the new empowered artifact trait grind that will be available. Class challenges will be available. Pet battle dungeons will be available. This is an underrated thing that nobody's talking about. Also, Paragon reputations will be available, which will allow you to go beyond Exalted with Broken Isle factions. And then every, I think, 10,000 rep beyond Exalted, you'll get a cache which can contain a mount, which I really, really want the Val'Sharah one because that's a unicorn. Although, let me just back up for a second and say I still have not gotten the Suramar Fox. Still.
Oh, no.
And I do the Nighthold quests every time they come up because I want the mount. Like, I love that mount, and I still haven't gotten it.
Yep.
That's all.
So, also, I also made a list of stuff that's coming later in the patch that we either saw via data mining or was open to test on the PTR, but you won't be able to do on the 28th. So I'll just run through that quickly. So on April 4th, you have the invasions coming for Pathfinder. In mid-April, we're not exactly sure what the details are, but the Q&A said that a few weeks into 7.2, you could get class champions, and then after that, there would be a few class-themed world quests up. Since you get the class mounts after the Broken Shore campaign, and that's at least 11 weeks, the class mounts, we assume you'll get sometime in June. And in the summer, we know the raid is coming. And also, there are these rewards from Power Ascended, and Power Ascended requires you to get all the empowered traits, max out all your old bronze traits to rank 4, and put 1 point into the new infinite trait concordance of the Legion Fall.
Yeah.
So, and then on certain classes that unlocks the ability to purchase those like Death Knight Whelplings or the Demon Hunter Pepe, a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, don't go in there being like, like 7.2, I'm going to go tame Feathermanes in 5 days, because it will take you a few months to get that process done.
Yeah, that's not an instantaneous thing. So Sass, were there any questions? Could you see if there's any questions specifically regarding the patch or anything Wowhead related to the patch? We're going to talk a little bit about guides and tools and then try to answer some patch questions before we move on to live server stuff. So if you have a question, now is the time to ask it if it involves 7.2 or anything on Wowhead involving 7.2. So there's lots of guides for this patch on Wowhead, right?
Yeah, we actually just put up an article today highlighting all the guide and menu updates we've done so far, because we replaced the 7.15 menu with a 7.2 menu, and our artifact menu has new information on like the empowered traits and the challenge appearances. We have transmog guides for the new stylist achievement you can get. We have a lot of updates. I think the two biggest things as far as tools is that the artifact calculator has gotten a ton of updates, because there's new there's new traits you can get. You have to unlock the traits in a certain order. Once you put points into 35 traits, the calculator changes and lets you put new points into bronze traits. They look totally different. The costs are different. So we did a lot of updates on the PTR artifact calculator. And we also did a lot of updates on Wowhead's transmog set database, because as we discussed, Blizzard is now putting transmog sets into the game, and we wanted our transmog set names to match their transmog set names, and sometimes we ignored wrists, and Blizzard included wrists in their sets. So we did a lot of updates to make sure that all the old sets lined up with their sets as well. But yeah, in addition to guides, we have lots of guides up. So we have the artifact guides up. We have a Cathedral of Eternal Light guide. We have the basics up, but a more in-depth one is coming by Fat Boss TV. We have Class Hall guides getting updated. We have Broken Shore guides getting updated. We have lots of stuff already there. We're just sort of like going through every single guide possible. Yeah. We have the Mythic Plus guide updated with the new abilities you can get. And yeah, one guide update I want to single out is because the artifact calculator had so many updates for 7.2, we wanted our class guides to, highlight all this hard work more. So we split out the gear information page from the artifact information page. So like all the menu navigation, all the pages, all that's updated. So, hopefully that emphasizes the artifact calculator and guide information better now in 7.2.
Yeah. Yeah. Did Sass send you any questions that we might be able to answer?
I think I have a few things. So someone asked, Super Brady, do we know what the Power Ascended rewards are for every class yet? So we think we do. Not every class has a Power Ascended reward. If you go to the class mounts guide page, or I think the Power Ascendance database page, there's a list of everything organized by class.
Yeah, and I'm sure Sass will link that for you in momentarily when he hears that.
Yep. And SJ420, anything going to be unavailable after 7.2? So the Ahead of the Curve achievements for Trial of Valor and Nighthold they're not going away at 7.2's launch, but they will be going away when the raid opens. So
I feel
you still have
like
some
Trial
time to
of
get them.
Valor should go away. Like, I'm really surprised how long they're giving people to do that. Because my guild thought it was before Nighthold, so we got it before Nighthold because we didn't think we would be able to if we waited. And that's crazy, the amount of time they've given you to do 3 bosses. Anyways, continue. I'm sorry.
The other stuff is not really related to finding stuff on Wowhead with 7.2. Okay. So, people are like, oh, is 7.2 too early? Which is an interesting question, but it's, it's not really like find the 7.2 info on Wowhead.
We'll get back to those questions at the end. We were looking for stuff that was specifically related to the site in Wowhead and 7.2, but we'll get back to the rest of the questions at the end. So moving on to live server stuff, this was like such a controversial thing that happened.
I know.
So the EU prices for different WoW services have changed. This goes through in effect on April 4th. And it's an approximate 20% increase. I've got a chart up right now so that you can see.
Yeah, some are more, some are less.
Yeah, so you can see the new
TLDR prices expensive.
Yeah, and it includes all character services as well as mounts and pets. This is to adjust for global currency exchange rates. And honestly, I'm not surprised to see this because we heard about this happening in Hearthstone a couple weeks ago and people were super upset about it. So I would not be surprised if we start seeing this in other games as well, like Heroes of the Storm and Overwatch boxes. But what I will say about this, and I feel like I'm generally the type of person that's very forgiving of price hikes because I understand how things go. But in the same sense, being that the majority of this stuff is digital stuff, it's not a physical thing that's costing a certain amount of money. I was really surprised to see the amount.
I mean, I guess you could. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but I wonder if like the server cost to maintain it or process it get more expensive over time.
I do wish that if they were going to raise, that would be an interesting, but I mean like a blue post explaining why they would need to change the prices to adjust for currency rates despite them being all digital items. Because like, I don't think it's a huge deal for games like WoW. I don't think it's a huge deal because all those services, the majority of them are very optional. You never need to do them. You know what I mean? With the exception of the actual subscription fee. Yeah. Nothing else is really mandatory. But in games like Hearthstone, it's pretty difficult to play Hearthstone on any sort of serious level without spending money on packs ever. Right. So to have the pack prices go up is a big deal. And then if you get into games like Heroes of the Storm is already, if you compare it to other games of that genre, is by far the most expensive one when it comes to buying heroes, buying skins. It's and it's much slower to earn them without spending money. So when you talk about a price hike in a game like that, which by the way, just to be clear, has not happened, it might. This is speculation. It has not happened. But if it did, I think.
So this is interesting about Heroes of the Storm because I forget which publication it was, but some gaming site was actually talking about the Heroes of the Storm model perhaps not being sustainable in the long time. And it was like, oh, you know, already how it is, like, it's already more expensive. Yeah, that's probably how I saw it. But yeah, it's like, it's already more expensive to get an equivalent number of heroes in Heroes of the Storm than like Dota or League.
Slower too. Like it takes like 20 to 30 games to be able to afford a new hero, and it only takes like 8 in League of Legends.
Right. And the games are longer, but that's still, like, proportionally, it still seems faster.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I agree. That was actually a really thought-provoking article because they basically talked about how Blizzard, in the long run, could make way more money if they just reduced the price or offered some sort of, like, full buy-in on just heroes. Not skins, not anything vanity-related, but just made the heroes more obtainable. Because, I mean, look at, like, Overwatch's business model. You pay the $60 one time, and then you get every hero that ever comes out, every map that ever comes out, and anything that you're purchasing with money is vanity. And you know that people are spending it. I have personally spent hundreds of dollars on Overwatch boxes. Like, I wish that wasn't true. It is.
Right.
It is. Like, every time there's an event, it's $50 that I spend and $50 my husband spends because we want the skins. Like, we're there. And the thing is, if Heroes of the Storm had a similar model, I feel like there would be more people like me and my husband who are like, oh yeah, this is totally worth it, as opposed to like spending $10 just on a hero. But that's another story entirely. But I'll be interested to see what other things are going to get that price hike as well, because if it was Hearthstone and now it's WoW, it's definitely going to affect other things at some point. There's no way that it's only going to be a couple games. If it has to do with a global currency conversion, global currency conversions is in other games as well. But on the bright side,
for cheap prices.
Yes, they also happen to be running a sale right now. So as you can see from the graphic that's on the screen right now, if you want to buy World of Warcraft Legion, it's $10 off the standard or the digital deluxe edition. All character services are also 25% off. This is the appearance change, race change, name change, character transfer, faction change.
I don't think guilds are
Go ahead.
Guilds are? Okay, cool. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Guild services as well are 25% off. That includes guild name change, guild transfer, and faction change.
Yep.
Now, it is worth noting that this sale goes until April 4th. So this isn't really to offset that price hike. This is if you want it and you don't want it with the price hike, buy it now at a discounted rate or else it's going to be more expensive.
It's also active on U.S. servers and, well, NA realms, which, to reiterate, the prices are not going up on U.S. servers, but they do benefit from this discount as well.
Yes, but EU will also benefit from the discount if they decide that they're going to, want to do that before April 4th. So that's a thing that's going on. And then this is interesting, too. So we heard about Battle.net being dropped as a brand for Blizzard, and they're not going to call it Battle.net anymore, which a lot of people, particularly people who played Diablo and Warcraft back
nostalgia.
in the day, the nostalgia of Battle.net going away is kind of sad. But it will no longer be called Battle.net. Instead, it is now just the Blizzard launcher. So you can see up in the corner, it no longer has that swirly. It says Blizzard. If you have it minimized and it's on your tray at the bottom, it's also going to say Blizzard. But other than that, nothing really changes. It's just Blizzard now instead of Battle.net.
Yep.
So...
Oh, yeah, it's a swirl as well. So, no, the swirl is gone.
The swirl is gone,
if you're looking at your icons in, applications, it looks a little different.
It does.
But it does the same thing as before.
It does.
And, yeah.
So I think our last part... I'll flip to you to talk a little bit about what's going on Wowhead.
Sure. So in addition to all the 7.2 stuff, we also have some community events that have been going on, which Kitsuki has organized. This past Thursday, we had another cooking show with Lulaboo, and we made the beer-braised boar ribs and the wild rice cakes from the Warcraft cookbook. And stay tuned soon, maybe TM, for the recipe write-up and cookbook giveaway. We've got a lot of 7.2 stuff going on, so we don't want to bury the cookbook giveaway. But the ribs looked awesome. They look super tasty, so I cannot wait to read the recipe tips. And as usual, when we do the giveaway, you'll let us know in the comments what you want to see as the next recipe, and that will help us plan out our April show.
Yeah.
And in a few days, we will have our monthly lore collaboration with Novel87. He will be reviewing the lore of Draenor this weekend, and this will also be like a World of Warcraft Chronicle Volume 2 review that, he's obviously the hugest lore nerd, so it makes sense that he'd be focusing on a big part of Chronicle, which just came out a week or two ago, as his video for us. And as usual, he writes the video and provides the transcript, and then, I go through and I link to all the quests he talks about, so if you like the lore, you can go do those quests in-game and learn more about it.
Yep. That's what's going on there. So, we still do have a merchandise code going if you guys are interested in that. I believe I have that right here. Right there.
Yep.
So we do still have a merchandise code. It's good through March 31st. It is Wowhead 15 March. That will give you 15% off all Blizzard Gear Shop plushies. So if you were interested in getting yourself a Gear Shop plushie, there are so many to choose from. Also keep in mind that the Hearthstone pillow, the Abathur symbiote hat, the Zerg slippers, those all count as plushies. So if you were interested in any of those things, also the Stitches, who comes with an in-game skin for Heroes of the Storm, he counts for that. So if you're interested in that, you have until March 31st. Again, that's Wowhead 15 March to get 15% off all of the plushies. And also thank you again to everybody who subscribed to us during this podcast. We did just get 2 new emotes. They were made by Ascot Hero, and it's a little Murloc and a little Hogger, and they're adorable. So thank you so much for everybody who subscribed and for making those for us. And now we're going to get into the rest of the questions.
Yep. So let's see. Lone Samurai, is 7.2 too early? Are we going to have a lack of content later in Legion? 7.2 does feel very rushed, especially because the news started hitting right when 7.5 just came out. It does feel too early on my end. It feels that the people that previewing the stuff and that people look up to provide information, not just Wowhead, but the people that test the encounters or do the add-ons or writing the guides or doing all the theory crafting and math, that they felt a little strained keeping up with live and PTR. So I think in that sense, it's definitely felt like a shift.
Yeah.
I'm also curious if Blizzard can keep this up because, like
It's a lot of
7.5 and
content.
7.2 was really intense. I will say that, we were talking about how a lot of 7.2 stuff is staggered. So, maybe, I think all the stuff I mentioned will be staggered throughout the spring and summer.
Yeah.
And then if we data mine a bunch of 7.3 stuff or play it on the PTR, that could be staggered over 6 months as well. Power Ascending will require a lot of time to get. So it's we were previewing content maybe coming in, I don't know, July or August on the PTR in February.
Yeah, I felt like if they were going to stagger the content coming out in the patch, I didn't understand why they didn't stagger the PTR the same way. If we're not getting the raid for 11 or 12 weeks, why was there raid testing in February?
Yeah, I feel it's more a perception thing. You just want the people who are testing it to feel nice and relaxed, versus running around, feeling stressed. I feel if Blizzard doesn't want people to test the stuff, then, don't have the dungeon journal up or don't have testing. If they want people to not test or it's hey, slow down, it's well, don't give people the option to rush in there. Be we're working on the new raid, but you won't be able to test it this earlier. They have internal raid teams, I believe. They're always hiring for QA, so they do have some feedback coming in with that.
Yeah, and someone in chat said, well, the patch isn't actually bringing Tomb of Sargeras. That's literally my point when I say that. We're getting 7.2, and Tomb of Sargeras isn't going to come out for 11 or 12 weeks. I don't understand why they could have started the raid testing for that now. I mean, because a certain amount has already been tested before it goes on to the PTR. It's not like they're putting out a brand new, fresh thing. You know what I mean? So I feel like the PTR felt more rushed than it actually doesn't feel horrifically rushed that 7.2 is next week. Although I still personally would have felt like they could have waited another month and people wouldn't have been oh, there's nothing to do.
I feel it just is also good for community building. If the people that are, previewing and testing this stuff, you want people to feel relaxed and confident and, well rested and creative. And I'm not talking about myself, I've decided I'll mostly focus on the PTR. I've hired extra people to help me, but I just feel if, for community leaders or people that previewing the stuff that people look up to,
it's a lot,
working with them is good because, those are the people that are discovering the cool stuff or predicting how artifact traits will go, or the people leaving thoughtful feedback. And there's less of that happening if people feel rushed. You can overlook things or you're busy with lives.
Well, and if they're still progressing in the current raid, they just they have to make a choice. Yeah. And those are just, like I said, it could have just been a month and it would have been fine. But it doesn't feel since so much of 7.2 is staggered, it doesn't actually feel terrible. It more so felt like it was a lot on the PTR all at once. Yeah.
It was definitely, I felt it sort of drowned out some of the Nighthold hype that was going on 7.5. Mm-hmm. So I feel just for a PR perspective, let people get hyped up over Nighthold and Balance of Power and Brawls Gear.
It felt like it took away from Nighthold.
Yeah. So I think that was my main issue, just taking away from Nighthold. And then, the people that try to make the community better and do the research and provide good feedback, it was kind of tense on them. So
yeah,
those were my main things.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see. Is there a chance that Time Walking would be on its own timetable? Time Walking Pandaria isn't due back until June 7th. There would be 3 months between a particular Time Walking event. I feel Blizzard said they weren't doing that. They didn't want Time Walking up all the time because it would feel less special. But I agree that as we get more bonus events, things get more and more spread out. Yeah. It could mean that it could revive interest in events I need to do this now or else I'll...
I just think they should split it up into PvP and PvE. Now that they have the PvP
arena event
brawls,
is just looking at traffic whenever we do the arena or battleground event guide updates, people are whatever. But then when we do Time Walking, it's oh my god, this is so exciting. This is the best thing ever.
Yeah, I just think that they should they should take all the PvP stuff out of the weekly rotation and put that in its own rotation with the brawls.
Yeah, I think that would be a good
every
idea.
week there could either be a different brawl or, arena skirmishes or battlegrounds. There should just be 2 separate quest guides, one for PvE content, one for PvP, and you can do both. And that would make all of the events a little bit more often. So you'd get Time Walking a little bit more often.
2 months versus 3. So
yeah, it would just be a little bit of a compromise.
Yep. This is interesting. I don't know the answer to it. It's Crypto Griffin asked, do we think the scars on Kil'jaeden's right eye are from the boss fight on Somo Plateau? So I think that's an interesting theory. I don't know, but maybe when the raid gets closer, Novel can do his monthly video on that topic and, be like, hey, like, if you know anything about this, let us know. Yeah, like, his model changed. Like, how did he grow legs? Why did
I
he
like
have the
to think
scar?
that Mischief the Fell Kitten scratched him.
I like that idea.
That's what I like to think happened.
So that's it as far as questions.
Right.
I do have the giveaway winner. Sass always does a little giveaway if you're watching in chat. And the digital pet this time is won by Riv1. So congrats on your pet.
Yeah, congratulations. And thank you once again to Artanis, AGANEJ2, as well as Castria10 for subscribing to our Twitch stream. We really appreciate all of you guys coming out here and joining us live every Friday, especially since sometimes we're not exactly punctual. We appreciate your patience with us. So thank you to everybody who subs us on Twitch, who follows us, who joins us live, and also thank you to everybody who watches us on YouTube and watches us like on Wowhead. We appreciate that. And a big, huge thank you and shout out to all of our Wowhead Premium subscribers. Wowhead Premium, of course, is a monthly, basically, membership to Wowhead. It disables all ads on mobile or desktop, or both if you're signed in on both devices. It allows you to talk in a special color on the forums. You can track quests. You can modify your today on the Broken Isles. There are all sorts of benefits, but the biggest one is that it directly supports Wowhead as a site. It's $1 a month or $9 a year, and we really appreciate everybody who does that, and I'm sure that you guys appreciate no ads. Yeah. So we are going to go. We'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. That will be the 29th, so 7.2 will be out, and I'm sure we'll have words about that. Until then, though, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening and a great weekend, and we'll see you next week, guys. Bye.
Yep. Bye.